Welcome back to another video. Today I just want to talk about some companion planting with the Sunchokes and the Dames Rocket, which is the plant with the purple flowers. The Sunchokes have the opposite leaves, they're kind of fuzzy. I also want to talk about another patch a little bit with the companion planted Winter Rye and the Sunchokes as well, and kind of go over some of the things that are happening with that. So let's get right down into it. Alright, so this is one companion planting strategy that I really like with the, we've got the Dames Rocket here, and behind that we have the Sunchokes. So they're kind of companion planted here. The Sunchokes are in the middle aisle, and then the Dames Rocket are off to the side. I could probably have Dames Rocket on either side of the Sunchokes, as long as I keep the Sunchokes, thinned out, so that they have enough space to grow and aren't crowding out the Dames Rocket or each other. So the two plants do not seem to be too affected by each other negatively, even though I know both species can be kind of allelopathic at times with certain other species, or at least some mustards can be, and then I know the Sunchokes can be as well. But what I really like about this companion planting strategy is that you can plant the Dames Rocket in the really early spring, in the fall, and that will grow up. It can be a biennial or short-lived perennial, and it will come up in spring. It'll bolt, right, set flower and seed, and then it will die down later on in the year. But during that time, the Sunchokes will have become much taller and more dominant in the garden space, so these plants aren't in so much direct competition throughout the growing season, because their time of dominance doesn't really overlap. So in some areas, Dames Rocket may be deemed invasive, so use your best judgment when considering using these species. In North America, the Sunchoke is native, but it can also be pretty aggressive in how it grows as well. So also keep that in mind when you're working with these two species. The Dames Rocket has a beautiful purple flower. Some varieties have other flower colors like white and such. Sunchokes, of course, bloom later on in the year into October and November around here in this climate of Zone 6A. And they have a really brilliant yellow goldish kind of flower, kind of like a sunflower. It's been kind of droughty these last few weeks. You can see some accumulation of maybe some anthocyanins, and also some paling of the leaves, right, some chlorosis, since the plants aren't able to get as much nutrients from the soil because it's so dry quite as easily. So the microbial life in the soil has probably gotten quite a bit toned down, or at least the accessibility of some of these minerals. I know brassicas like Dames Rocket may not necessarily have close relationships with a lot of the microbes in the soil, as far as we know currently, but the drought and dry weather can still, because of the lack of water, can still kind of inhibit their ability to uptake and use certain nutrients. So hopefully we get some rain soon. Doesn't quite look like it yet, but overall, the other than changing color of the leaves, the Dames Rocket is still flowering quite well. Flower tops, of course, I've eaten. They're mustard brassicas, so they can be edible. The young leaves as well. Just make sure you know how to identify it. Don't confuse the plant in its younger stage with common evening primrose or phlox, or even when it's flowering. I believe most varieties of phlox have 5 petals in their flowers, and Dames Rocket has 4 petals, right? The classic cruciferous flower shape. Cross-shaped, right? 4 petals, kind of like an X. Also, if you crush a leaf or a flower of Dames Rocket, it has that characteristic cruciferous kind of pungent smell to it, whereas evening primrose does not. Over here, of course, I have some rye in the background on the far side, and then I have sunchokes in the middle here. And I have it mulched here as well. These sunchokes seem to be doing pretty well. The rye is pretty anemic, not quite as high vitality as some other plantings of rye I have. I believe this planting of rye I planted pretty late. It may have even been in January when I got these seeds in the ground here, so the plants never really had a chance to really establish well before they began to bolt this spring. You can see the leaves are already beginning to yellow. They're yellowing more from the base than they are from the top, so I believe that means mobile nutrients are deficient. So mobile nutrients, of course, a very popular mobile nutrient would be nitrogen, but yeah, so it's been really droughty here too. That hasn't helped. So I had rye last year with the sunchokes, and they did really well. The sunchokes didn't do quite as well, but in this case this year the sunchokes are doing really well and the rye is not doing well. So there's still a lot more to kind of examine and kind of learn from this companion planting experiment. If the rye is doing well and thriving, it may be a little bit more dominant and maybe creating a little bit more of those allelopathic compounds that the sunchokes may or may not be affected by. I'm not really sure on that myself, but if you put both, but my idea is to try to put both plants in a state of success with thinning the sunchokes, which has proven to be a really important thing, I think, so it's not competing itself out, and making sure it's mulched so it can retain more water and it's not getting too much competition from surrounding grasses, and then making sure the rye does well, right, that it's planted not too late. I mean, really, even if you do plant it late, I mean, it's better than not having anything on the soil at all, and you know, you can still get, you know, some grains and some biomass, but not quite as much as if you plant it later. You know, I'll probably still continue to plant it later, but for the sake of this experiment, you know, maybe in the future I might try to set this up so that both plants are able to kind of have success in that environment, and then see how they interact with each other when they're both kind of set up for success. I feel like last year the sunchokes were not set up for success, and this year it's the rye. So with that, I want to thank you for checking out this video. Hope you learned something from it. Hopefully you can gain something from this and apply it to some of your own companion planting experiments or gardening. So look forward to seeing you hopefully in the next video. Take care.